So, Lobros, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. And a return to Berlin with Con.Txt and quite a departure from your usual style. Just explain the thinking behind that and what you're trying to get across with this work.
Yeah, I mean, like to also give the context. Yeah, for us it started like the show at Urban Spree in Berlin. It's planned since a while, since I think last year, end of last year, and yeah, when like Corona, like the pandemic, like spread, we were not even sure if this show will still happen. I mean, in the beginning, it was even bigger plan with friends doing like the party, and we would take over the whole Urban Spree, and then yeah, it was pretty clear that this not gonna happen. So we, but we heard that the show will happen, you know, with like all the like Corona measurements and everything. So we thought of like, oh, it would be interesting to jump on this like whole like Corona theme, even like what does it do with us? And we are reflecting on this. Started to create the first concepts for pieces, and then yeah, the death of or the murder of George Floyd happened, and this really touched us, and we couldn't like think about anything else than like what is wrong in the US, but not only in the US, but also in Germany, and like how we like participate in this like racist system and these structures. And while like found out by being neutral or silent, we just like add to the problem, and we are like actually part of the problem. And you know what usually happens in Germany is that we are pretty aware of racism and like what happened back then, like in the Third Reich, and so we consider ourselves to be like super anti-racist and always point out like the racists, the Nazis, and but this turns the focus away of ourselves and how we like what I said like add to the problem. So yeah, we were like pretty taken by like all the things that happened. Like we read a lot, we did a lot of research, and thought like, okay, well, how could we participate or in this movement with like what we can do as artists? And so first it was like, okay, we first like leave away all our like art, and we had like a lot of things that we wanted to post online, but we thought like, oh, this will only distract from like what's really important now. So what we thought we can do, we can first like change the whole optics. So like we went to like super colorful to this black and white monochromatic scheme, at least like visually like show that we that we're away from normal, like something's different now. And so we went into this thought process. We posted like many others this like black square, which we thought like, even if there's a lot of critics, we thought like, okay, it's like for many people a first option to just say like, hey, like show my solidarity, but of course this can't be it. So we started with that. We had a lot of like discussions and a big thought process, because we also thought like to just like throwing out our opinion without like even reflect enough on this theme, like you can do a lot wrong as a white person who has the privilege to not like have to deal with the subject every day of his life. So we shared some thoughts. We went on the rallies here in Hamburg, and and then we thought about our show that's coming up. Like, how could we not deal with this theme, even though like we know it's like pretty like tricky for like white people to make like art about like this tough subject. And so we spend a lot of time figuring out how we can like deal with the subject in our artistic way without like do too much like appropriation, for example, like, or like paint portraits of George Floyd, hang them and sell them, and this kind of like weird how to deal with it. So we thought, okay, let's rather take a look on our like whiteness and white privileges and and change perspectives, but address this like mainly to white people to reflect themselves. That was a monologue, sorry. But
no.
That's everything. I think
It's important, but I think, you know, the main mural as well, which is, you know, going to be seen by thousands and thousands of people every day, pretty much, check your privilege, which is, you know, that's, I guess, hits you in the face, doesn't it? And makes you.
That was something we, we usually won't do, to put like bold slogans to address to people. We usually rather be like a little bit like quiet, more Trojan horse-like subjects in our pieces that make people like maybe think about a little bit, reflect. But in this case, we thought like this is like a pretty nice slogan, because even this like whole like privilege thing, a lot of people didn't even think about that. So we also have a friend who she's white but from South Africa, and she dealt a lot with this subject already and is like pretty deep into it. And she told me like she was so happy about this mural, and she told me that, or us, that she talked to some Germans and they were like behind her back like oh yeah, like what's she talking about privilege, like this stupid girl, blah blah blah. And then she's like, oh, they're living around the corner and this is like directly in their face. So it's pretty nice. Like we heard it's like around 70,000 people passing by each day, because it's like kind of the only like access between Kreuzberg and Friedrichshain. So there are a lot of people on this bridge.
It's a great spot, and actually I suppose the good thing about that as well is, you know, for instance, if I was visiting the city, I would go there because, you know, I love the street art. But then maybe if people aren't even, that's not their thing, they'll still see it, and it will still make them stop and think for a moment, won't it? So it's quite a powerful thing, really.
Yeah, our assistant already mentioned, like when she was like sitting in the back or filming, like a lot of people passing by already, like when we were pre-sketching, already be like, check your privilege? What? Check your privilege? So she already heard it a lot.
Another bit that, you know, because I've only looked on, you know, I suppose on your Instagram and on Urban Spray as well. You know, the like the police car door, but it says polite instead. So there's a bit of that kind of almost like glitch in the matrix type of thing going on there as well to make people.
Yeah, we love these kind of things. Yeah. No, that's something we like. It's like maybe a little bit more ambiguous than some other pieces, and it's also the perception, like if you're like, or also like the context again, like how do you deal with police when you're white or when you're black, so or of color. So that was pretty interesting that you like, even as a white person, or maybe rather as a white progressive person, you would still see that like this doesn't really fit together. The politeness and the police.
Yeah, similar in Germany. What is your relation to the police in general? You know, like how do you feel when you see police, and how would you feel when you were black when you see police, and all these things you can. I think it throws up like a lot of questions you could ask yourself, like what is the status quo of this institute?
Yeah, and in the end, these institutions like also only reflect the society we live in, and you can start questioning like what do they actually protect, and often they do protect our privileges we have. And so that was also quite important for us, like when the whole when the masses got loud after George Floyd's death, like a lot of white people were again like pointing out only like the problems with the police, like, and the police being racist and so on. And it's like, for us it was super important that like a lot of people do that, but we wanted to go deeper and like really like reflect ourselves, and then hopefully like have a society and at some point where also the police is like serves like everyone, not.
And it's been such a strange year, and a year of, I mean, one, we had the pandemic which turned everything upside down, and then post George Floyd, such a lot of soul searching for everyone, and like we've had to change the way we live. I mean, do you feel that, you know, you've got this new direction for this show? Do you feel this is going to influence things moving ahead as well, or will you, you know, will you kind of flip back to the super colorful style and kind of? I'll be interested to hear what
Yeah.
your thoughts are.
Yeah, first, I find it interesting that like there are so many memes out there and so many people saying like, oh, 2020, it's just a word and only bad things happen. But I also see a lot of like good things happen, like a lot of things being questioned, like the Black Lives Matter movement, how strong it became like during this pandemic. I think it shows that a lot of people have like, or are forced to reflect a little bit more on how things work and how they want things to be. Yeah, for us, it's like, yeah, it's the same question. Like we knew we would get back to colors at some point, but we, on the other hand, we don't want to like this movement to die. And I mean, for ourselves, like we already got so deep into the subject that we like. I think when we see like everyday racism, we can't unsee it, and we already like talk to our peers a lot, and we also thought like, okay, how can we do something also besides our artistic work? So things like getting in touch with organizations here in Hamburg where you're a bit closer and share your skills with them and see maybe we can do some designs or whatever. So we still watching out like what we can do also in private, but yeah, it will be interesting like how we maintain this in our work, because we will definitely, we have so many subjects lined up we want to deal with. We probably or might get more political in our work. We also have now figured out that typography works pretty well, and so you have another like layer in your work you can communicate with. So we maybe keep that and do that a bit more. But yeah, we'll show like we still don't know where this all leads, but it will definitely have an influence also on our future work.
I think that spirit of collaboration is so important, really, and even more so kind of this year, really. When it comes to, you know, working together and, you know, creating the design, and you're very kind of precise and meticulous. How does this process work? Is it, you know, you're starting with sort of sketches and working from there and scaling up, or, you know, just talk me through that?
So basically, I would say like in the first years of Logos, it was more about defining the style and everything. So it would go more about the sketches. But since like 4 years, it's more about reading first and getting knowledge, doing research, talk about the issue, and then we have like ideas popping up, and each of us would do sketches and pass it to the other. This is more the way we work nowadays. So it's most about the research part and reading and talking, and the creating part is still important, but not as big as the other.
And
I mean, like the thought process in the end is
it is more important.
Actual product.
And is there a kind of balance to, you know, who are you both kind of, in terms of which bits you would be, I don't want to say stronger at, but, you know, one person might be, you know, more precise with the measurements, one might have the more creative side, for example, you know.
I think that it's like pretty balanced, and it's like sometimes like this and sometimes like that.
Yeah, maybe when it gets into production, it's like Chris has a little bit more the handcraft skills, while I do most of the computer work. Like there you can see like we like see the strengths of the other, and see that we can use it in a good way.
And at what point, just kind of going back now, at what point did you decide that, you know, art or street art in particular was something that you were interested in in doing, and you know, do you kind of that first hitting the street kind of thing?
Yeah, it's kind of, we like grew with like we started to paint graffiti around 20 years ago. Even more,
1997, 96.
Yeah, 23 years already.
Yeah.
Wow. So for us was clear the early point that we want to like create, and we want to do that also for a living at some point, but we never considered like art to be like something we can make a living out of, or graffiti practice. So that's something, but on the other hand, it's something we are pretty happy about, that when we like started like painting, we never knew that a career would be even possible, because so we were pretty like free and had like not that much pressure. But that was also the reason why we chose like graphic design school to learn everything in order to make a job, maybe as a graphic designer or whatever, or illustrator, or we didn't know. And so on the side, what we like, even next to the studies, we went out painting walls and starting to do the first shows, and noticed the joy of creating a piece you can actually keep and not like leave somewhere in the wall and maybe it gets paint over or buffed or whatever. So yeah, we somehow like this part like grew bigger and bigger, and we always knew like our passion is more there. And then, but the studies got us a little bit more into the like theory and reading and art history, and we started to go to contemporary art exhibitions more, and reading and educating ourselves a bit more about that. So our interest in that grew simultaneously, and so it got all together and went more from like our graffiti approach to more of a, I don't know, like contemporary art direction.
And has there been a kind of has there been a favorite place that you've painted, or perhaps whether it's a mural you've created where you thought, you know what, this is the one we love the most?
Yeah, there was kind of a turning point when we finally decided to get together as a team, because you know in graffiti you always collaborate with, like that's also the nice thing about it, which you don't have in contemporary art, where every artist is kind of for themselves, or a group, but stick together, and usually like it's not easy for them to collaborate. And so we were in the same crews, we did a lot of collaborations together, and already figured out like, okay, it works pretty well. And then this one day we jumped on another wall together, but it was a bit smaller and we wanted to create something bigger. So we puzzled a character together from our different styles and things we got in the sketchbook. And then we figured out like, wow, this looks kind of like it has something new to it. And this might work for us in the future. Like we want to like discover this more and follow this. So this was around 2009, I think. A really nice place in Hamburg called the Gängeviertel, which is a bunch of squatted houses, and where you have like now artist studios, galleries, concert spaces in there, lectures, cafes. So this is a special place for us, and that was also a starting point for Logos. Yeah.
And the tiger is something which comes up all the time. What is it about the tiger in particular that?
I think it's like animal-wise, it's like predators in general. You know, like from the beginning when we painted animals, we kind of wanted to display human behaviors. So our starting point was also from like this whole like graffiti and hip hop culture. So you have like really like masculine, like strong characters, which we like also saw a bit like humoristic, but we're kind of interesting in this like rough, like manly, like alpha behavior. So we noticed at some point like, oh, we like mostly choose like predators for these. And this one hand a series of wolves we really like. We're now like also stick to that, but also like a lot of wildcats and tigers. I think it's also something we we loved as children.
Mm.
Tigers, like this, like strength and aggressiveness. So we kept on going with the focus on the wolf, because at some point we decided, okay, we went through like all our like shared nostalgia of like 80s, 90s hip hop, skateboarding, whatever, and we figured out like, okay, there is a lot more that interests us at the moment, but we still want to use these characters to be like some kind of an avatar or something you can slip in, but therefore we simplified them a lot. So that's also a process like we or something we always do. We would also always question our working methods and always try to like reduce at some point in order to set the focus on a different point, like what we did with the characters, to simplify them in order to tell more stories or leave more space to reflect for the person, and instead of like giving them all the details, all the hints. That's just similar as we did with our recent exhibition now. So like the reduction of colors left more space for form, shapes.
Yeah, also for some reason we didn't want to put our character too much in the main focus of this show.
Yeah, but yeah, the question was the tiger. Yeah,
we ended with the wolf.
And do you find that do you find that people interpret your work in different ways, or some just take it on face value, some will take a certain interpretation?
Yeah, that's maybe something we still have to deal with, because a lot of people we notice like just get the surface of it, and maybe because we are like always interested in the aesthetics, and we that's still and will still be an important part for us also to like invite people to get in a more like deeper relationship with and resonance with the painting is the aesthetics. But for a lot of people I think it's like just stays with that, like, oh yeah, like nice pictures to watch, and they have like all these like cool stuff in there, like the tennis balls, and but there's always a deeper meaning to it. Like for example with the tennis balls, it's also a reason why we took them in our show was that we were dealing with privilege there already. You know, we had the basketball as a symbol before, which stands for us for like this like whole street culture and collaboration. Like you play basketball in a team, you have courts anywhere, and then at some point we realized like, oh wait, like there's like a good counterpart to this it is the tennis ball, because it's like a little bit more privileged thing to get into that. Depends on your like cultural heritage and your family. Then it's like not a team sport, you play one-on-one. So it displays this like kind of capitalistic thinking of like this competitive behavior pretty good, like everyone for themselves. And yeah, but we watch it more as a thing of classism before, and now figure out like that actually like this applies to like these racist structures pretty well. Like we don't want to like diss tennis or the sport. Like I mean, we love the aesthetics of it, but it's also good to acknowledge, okay, like it stands for a certain kind of privilege.
Yeah, like it even costs more to practice. You need equipment, everything.
Yeah, and often like in Germany at least, you need to rent your court in order to play.
Right. And in terms of, I mean, I suppose you kind of partly answered this, but in terms of you've got this great show out now, but is it, will you kind of take a pause now before deciding what to do next, or is it different conversations with each other and other people going on?
Yeah, it's going on. We already know what to do next. Like we have a lot of things lined up. I mean, we'll take 1 week holiday the week after next week, at least.
A whole week.
But yeah, then we'll keep on going.
And just before I conclude, one thing I like to ask is just, are there any artists either who you're really into at the minute, or if you think, maybe people should be looking out for? So this is to each of you, just shout outs. Basically.
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, it's hard to say and hard to pick out only a few. I mean, like recently, we honestly like didn't follow that many artists because yeah, it was a different focus recently. But we always love to watch people to like from our scene, or like people who came from graffiti, because we think like it's usually the people who like push things forward like regarding like mural painting. When you see Felipe Pantone, we love to like follow his whole like story and where he's like heading to. Like this is super interesting. But I mean, what was really nice, and we didn't post that yet, was the collaboration we did recently, like a few days before our show, with our crewmate Luke, aka Lars Wunderlich. Mm-hmm. You maybe know his work. Like he works a lot with glitches and pictures from he finds online, and so we got together for a mural where we could perfectly work with our browser windows.
Okay.
We assemble like and then glitch them with his pieces, with his pictures. So that was a pretty interesting collaboration, and we think like we will post it pretty soon when we slowly get back to color. That was one of the things we were holding back.
Okay. I look forward to that one.
Or monochromatic scheme.
Chris, anyone sort of spring to mind for you? Who you know?
Another artist? I mean, we love following actually the artists who exhibit at König Gallery in Berlin. There are a couple, but they are more from contemporary art, and funnily, like a lot of women. We recently.
Yeah, that's something we also want to put a spotlight on in the scene, because like as we are privileged in our whiteness, but also being male, and it's a bit sad to don't see that many female artists like getting the same chances in urban art. And it's like also funny to ask like where this is coming from, because in contemporary art it seems at least to be pretty balanced, even if they have maybe like female artists maybe have more struggles, but at least when we see like who we're following, whose work we're following, when you have like a Katharina Grosse or Camille Rowe, there's so many great female artists out there. But in urban art, I think we have to push them more. Maybe it was still like because of the roots of this like graffiti culture being like more like show off, being competitive. That's maybe something we got more conditioned as male to be like that, and so graffiti might have been more interesting. But that's the reason why we need to invite more female artists also to festivals. It's often when you see like the lineup. We just had a request where you saw, oh yeah, that's like a lineup of male white artists. So I think we need to be a bit more sensitive to that. And
this has come across actually with a few female artists who I've interviewed. I mean, for China Girl Tiles a good example actually. And saying how there are lots of female artists out there, but maybe the balance at a street art festival could be perhaps 80% male, mainly white, and only 20% female. So I don't know if there's a question as to if it's for organizers to say maybe they should be looking a bit more closely at who's out there, because there are some great female artists out there, or or what, I don't know what the solution is, because it's not like the artists aren't there.
Yeah, I think the solution is to they need to be more visible.
Yeah.
So the upcoming girls, they have like kind of role models and see like, oh, it's an inviting scene. Like I'm welcome there, and it's same with Black and people of color. So like you need to see you're like represented in a certain way in order to push you.
Well, hopefully
I think too, like super important to have a role model and that can push your mindset. You know, in skateboarding the same. As Flo said, you could see like young kids, like young girls skating amazingly, because and also the skate level has raised so big because of all the YouTube videos and Insta videos. You have the best of the best, and you permanently got reminded what is possible. And if you just see males skating, then you will see like, oh, for males it's possible, so we need to get in more girls so they can say they get more seen, and then small girls can see like, oh wow, that's possible, that is.
Yeah, it's like the interesting phenomena of like breaking records, for example. Like there's like one person breaking a record, and suddenly like a lot of people, like for example for runners, like run the same time. So it's really about like to know what's possible.
It's interesting, isn't it? And I kind of think the more of a mix there is, then the more difference there is, the more interest there is. It's better for everybody, isn't it, really? In
the end, yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's also something super important also when trying to be anti-racist, that you really have to believe as a like white person or white male, we will have a better world if everyone gets like equally treated. And yeah, that should be the motto, that you don't do it for others, we do it for ourselves, for all of us.
100%. I couldn't agree more, and that feels like a good place to end the interview. So thank you so much again for.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.